Hey guys, welcome back to Total Tactics FPL. It's Fran here, and I'm back with the Game Week 9 team selection. As you guys know, the Game Week 8 was actually decent. I did wildcard on that week specifically, and some things went well, and I would say the actual selection of players that I made was something that I was quite happy with in the end. The end result, of course, was that Mitrovic and Andreas didn't really deliver, and also Newcastle defense did not deliver, but the core of my midfield is something that I'm very, very happy with going forwards. If we just start from there, Martinelli, Maddison, Saka, Andreas. Yes, I obviously have quite a few City players, quite a few Arsenal players, but I do have the extra transfer now as the Game Week 8 wildcarder to address that issue. And I still like Saka and Martinelli's fixtures, even though they have to play Liverpool and Tottenham. I just think that being able to actually reach the Leeds game is a perfect opportunity to actually enjoy both Saka and Martinelli. A lot of people would have shifted out of Jesus, I suppose. At least the generic playing audience would have done so. And they won't have double Arsenal at that Leeds game, which I think could definitely make up for whatever negatives the Liverpool game will bring. As far as the rest of the team, though, very happy still with Mitrovic. He had an incredible international break, and yes, he had a blank versus Nottingham Forest, but it wasn't substantially a game that really changed my expectations for Mitrovic going forward, so I feel like he was still the right decision to make. And Kane, still very consistent, although Son did overshadow him ever so slightly. Still actually the better captaincy option for sure over Haaland. It was actually a bit of a toss-up for me between Kane and Haaland, but I still think because Haaland is so explosive and because the City team is building so many consistent chances, I think he is arguably fixture-proof, and in a very positive way. You have a non-blanking captain that you can live off of every week, and it's very hard to move off that Haaland captaincy. So congratulations to all managers who moved off the Haaland captaincy and did well, but that was something I chose to avoid. Maddison is, I think, the shining star of the team, and Zaha is actually sitting on my bench now, so that will be something I get to enjoy for the future weeks to come. A lot of Game Week 9 wildcarders are bringing Zaha on immediately because he gets to play. I made the decision to actually go for both Saka and Zaha, which a lot of people actually saw as go for Saka for 2 weeks, then go straight to Zaha. But for me, I still see the opportunity to actually play all these players going forwards, and I still think that I really like my team. The only actual issues in my team are within the defense, and I have the free transfers now to address that going forwards, heading towards Game Week 12. Cancelo, Pope, Trippier, these are all players that I'm still very happy to own. Shaw, of course, is a little bit of a problem, and then we'll have to deal with addressing Trent in the near future, but Reece James will be back in the team as well. So let's actually head on to my Game Week 9 team selection. The bench order is actually the most difficult decision of the week because I will be rolling as well, and the reason is simply because players like Reece James, Zaha are able to play and able to be selected this week, and I don't have any injury issues coming from the international break. Obviously, some owners of Patterson or even owners of Alexander Isak do have some transfers impending, but I do not myself, at least at this very point in time. My bench order will be Schär first and then Andreas. It is going to be a mirror matchup, so the decision here is to really just choose in isolation who I think would get more points. And the reason why Nico Williams sits at the very back is because I really just can't see this Nottingham Forest side being able to keep a clean sheet. This Leicester team, even though they've been very, very poor, are still very, very attacking. And I don't really see Brendan Rodgers changing that mold. We know that they are quite good at facing some of the weaker teams. We saw that at the back half of last season, especially when Vardy, Barnes, and also Maddison popped off at the late stages of the season as they kind of accumulated a lot of points, especially at the back half of the 30 fixtures. As far as the Schär and Andreas dilemma, the reason why I've gone for Schär is simply because I think that Andreas' ceiling as a player from the midfield position has definitely dropped off. We mentioned that when Willian came on last week, that he really did affect Andreas and our, I guess, envisioning of him and his asset ceiling. So for me, Schär is someone who we would expect to play. We already saw the rotation between Botman and Dan Burn. We've seen that actually several times this season. And Schär is actually nailed for this Newcastle defense. So I just think that there's a possibility, of course, that Newcastle could keep a clean sheet. And in that eventuality, I'd probably pick Schär. As far as the rest of my actual defense, though, very happy to play exactly how I planned out with the wild card, with going for Trippier, James, Pope, and also now Cancelo. Cancelo, of course, is going to be someone that I have to make a decision over. I do think I'm going to be keeping him on my team and specifically on my bench in Game Week 12. And the question, I suppose, is how to deal with Trent, or even if there is a need to deal with Trent. We do expect the Liverpool team to actually rebound. They have a good run of fixtures. They also have a great Game Week 12 fixture, so it's a good opportunity to move from Cancelo to Trent. The favorite transfer, I suppose, is Cancelo to Trent when they actually have a mirror matchup in Game Week 11, therefore allowing me to use a double transfer to move into Salah if I wanted to in Game Week 12. That is an opportunity, but I also think that I could also make some other moves around that. I could reformat my team to move back into a 4-back formation and allow myself to go into Cancelo and Trent. That's a possibility as well, and that would just simply involve transfers and therefore keeping a kind of triple City and Arsenal bench by game week 12, which means that Saka is the only one that has to go when it comes to players from those two teams. As far as my midfield, as you guys know, I'll be fielding Saka, Zaha, Madison. And for me, these three players are absolutely core pieces from the wild card that I'm very happy that I still own. And Martinelli is pretty much still, at this point, for me, a non-negotiable. I know that a lot of people would be thinking about maybe dropping Martinelli. Some people like Pras have even mentioned that Martinelli is someone that you could go without in the Game 9 wildcard. But I've built so much value with him. His underlying numbers are still so good, especially for this Arsenal team. And I just can't really see how Martinelli would be worse off as an asset. I really feel like the amount of TV that we've built with him is something that's worth keeping. And Martinelli is someone that I envision keeping beyond 12. So I would say that Saka is the one that I have to sacrifice here. But I'm very happy to actually own Saka and Martinelli, as I mentioned, up until game week 12 and play both of them for the Leeds game specifically. As far as Zaha and Madison, these are probably players that I can keep in my team for the time being, unless there is an unforeseen injury. These are players that have great runs of fixtures, specifically Crystal Palace. As far as Leicester, they still have to really show us that they can actually be able to beat some of the teams that we would expect them to beat usually, because they've already started such a poor run. Yes, of course, Crystal Palace and Leicester have a tough fixtures, and therefore they do find themselves towards the bottom half of the table themselves. But these are both players who are talismans for their teams. Madison for a slightly different reason, because he is someone who is, I would say, a little bit more creative and technical. And Zaha is a much more direct threat when it comes to when you look at the underlying numbers. Madison is someone who can even score the odd free kick goal here and there. Doesn't actually have penalties, unlike a Zaha. But that's why Zaha is such a great pick at his price. And Madison, for me, still matches up very well. And it saves me from basically making that transfer towards a Bowen, who I feel like is in a very similar situation, hasn't delivered at all this season. And for me was the kind of toss-up between him and Madison last week. So I'm very happy that I went for Madison and that he delivered in that Tottenham game. As far as the forwards, it's very simple. It's going to be the exact same as last week. It's going to be Haaland, Kane, and Mitrovic. And I'm in a camp where, because I've gone for Kane for game week 8, there's no reason to move off of Kane until game week 12 effectively. That 11 fixture is so key because I get an opportunity to potentially captain Kane over Haaland. That could be an interesting prospect. However, we did see even in the Community Shield match that Haaland had great chances versus Liverpool. But for the specific purposes of this week, where Haaland gets to play versus United, and Kane has a rather tough game on paper as well versus Arsenal, these are both huge derbies to play in. I just think that because City are creating so many consistent chances and are so high, or playing at such a high level, even though Arsenal are prospectively, I would say, the second best team in the league so far when we look at underlying numbers, that Haaland simply is the captaincy this week, and that's going to be the team selection so far. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.